No one noticed her climb the steps to the stage. No one even whispered, because no one expected someone like her to do something like that. But Kwon So-yeon was already there, barely breathing, clutching the mic like it could save her from drowning. The auditorium was full. The spotlight burned her skin. She didn't belong in it, but she had already made up her mind, and with her voice shaking like a leaf in the wind, she said, "I like you, oh Ji-hwan." Gasps, a ripple of shocked laughter, and from the middle row where he sat in his crisp uniform, surrounded by friends and followers, the most popular boy in school, Ji-hwan, froze. She looked at him, straight at him, her eyes pleading for something, anything. He stood slowly, stepped forward and said, "I'm sorry. I think you misunderstood." The laughter became louder. Some kids clapped, thinking it was a joke. So-yeon stood there, alone, her voice lost, her heartbeat crumbling in her chest. If you've ever felt invisible, if you've ever loved someone who didn't know you existed, stay with me. This story isn't just about rejection, it's about what happens after. Kwon So-yeon had always been the kind of girl who blended into walls, literally. She sat in the back of every class, at lunch in the library, wore the same 2 cardigans all year, and when someone called out, "Hey, what's her name again?" the answer was always a shrug. But So-yeon didn't hate being invisible. She had learned to find meaning in other things. In quiet places, in forgotten objects, she collected things no one else noticed. Rusted music box from a flea market, a button from a stranger's coat, a cracked watch stuck at 3:17. Each item meant something, a memory she didn't live, a feeling she wished someone had given her, and among her most precious things was a pen. Ji-hwan dropped once during a student council speech. She had picked it up after the crowd left. It still had bite marks on the cap. To her, that pen wasn't trash. It was proof that even perfect people had nervous habits. She watched him from far away for almost a year. Oh, Ji-hwan, 18 years old, top of the class, everyone's favorite. He smiled the way the sun rises, slow and inevitable. He remembered names, helped old teachers carry boxes, organized charity events. He was unreachable. But to So-yeon he was real, more real than anything else in her quiet little world. So she drew him, again and again, on scraps of napkins, in the margins of textbooks, in her sketchbook, always hidden under her pillow. She drew not the version the school saw, but the one she imagined, the one who looked tired after smiling all day, the one who wanted someone to ask how he was doing, the one who maybe, just maybe, would want something simple, honest like love. When the school announced the open mic night for the festival, So-yeon didn't sign up. Of course not, but she went to watch, sat in the dark, way in the back, while students performed. A boy played guitar, a girl sang an off-key ballad, someone told jokes. Then Ji-hwan walked on stage. He gave a speech about unity, kindness, and how we're all connected even when we feel alone. People clapped. She didn't. She just stared. And her heart screamed because she was alone, always had been, even in a room full of people who smiled. So when they said there was time for one more performance, her hand rose before her brain could stop it. "I'll go," she said, and suddenly she was walking up, toward the light. She didn't plan what to say. She just thought about how many nights she held his pen in her hand, how many times she drew his face like it was her only truth, how many dreams she wrote down just to feel like she mattered to someone, even if that someone never knew. So she took a breath and said, "I like you, oh Ji-hwan. I know you don't know me, but I know you, I see you, and I wanted to tell you, just once, even if you don't say anything back." But he did say something, and it shattered everything. "I'm sorry. I think you misunderstood." The world spun. She blinked. Laughter echoed. One boy whispered, "Wait, who even is she?" A girl giggled. "I thought it was a prank." Her legs moved on their own, off the stage, down the steps, back into the darkness where she belonged. No one followed her. No one stopped her, not even him. The next day, her desk was empty. The cardigan she always wore was gone. And by lunch, so was she. So-yeon disappeared. She deleted her social media accounts, didn't answer messages. Not that she had many. People only talked about her now as a rumor. Did you see her? The girl from the mic thing. She confessed to Ji-hwan in front of everyone. He totally rejected her. Brutal. Do you know her name? Nope. Ji-hwan didn't talk about it. When people asked, he just smiled politely and said, "It was unexpected." But at night he couldn't sleep, because the look in her eyes when she said, "I see you," wouldn't leave his mind, because that moment, frozen in time, felt heavier than anything he had faced as class president. Because, maybe, she did see him, more than anyone ever had, and that scared him more than the crowd's laughter. In her empty room, So-yeon stared at the pen, still had the bite marks, still his. She almost threw it away. But something in her chest said no. Instead, she placed it in a new box, labeled, "What I Tried." And for the first time in her life, she let herself cry. By Monday, the video had already made it to 3 class group chats. It wasn't even that long, 12 seconds to be exact. 12 seconds of shaky phone footage of a girl no one recognized holding a microphone with both hands, saying, "I like you, oh Ji-hwan," followed by the line that would haunt her, "Sorry, I think you misunderstood." Laughter. Zoom on her frozen face. Someone wrote in the caption, "Oof, this is painful." Another, "This is why quiet girls should stay quiet." She wasn't tagged, because no one knew her name. She was just Mike Girl. By lunchtime, she was gone. Her desk, the one closest to the back window, stayed empty. Her chair still held the indent of someone who used to exist there. Teachers called roll. No answer. Students whispered. No one cared yesterday. Now everyone had something to say, but no one had anything kind. In the girls' restroom, the mirror became her trial. She's so weird. Like, where did she come from? Did she really think someone like Ji-hwan would like her back? I bet she planned it for months. She probably thought it was romantic. You. And somewhere in the silence, someone added, "She's just not on his level." That sentence hung in the air longer than it should have. It wasn't just cruel, it was a rule. The kind everyone knew but never said out loud. People like her don't get people like him. So-yeon heard all of it, from behind the last stall door. Fists clenched, breath held, heart shattered. She waited until they left, then looked at herself in the mirror. Like maybe if she stared long enough, she'd understand why she wasn't good enough, why her feelings were something to laugh at. She wiped her face, took off her cardigan, and walked out like a ghost. By the time she got home, her body didn't feel like it belonged to her. Her hands deleted her accounts before her brain caught up. Instagram. Gone. Class group chat. Left. Art forum. Deleted. She threw her sketchbooks into a box, pushed it under the bed, closed the door on. The version of herself that dared to speak. For 3 days she didn't go to school. The only messages she got were from the attendance bot. Student Kwon So-yeon has missed class 2A for the following dates. Nothing else. No one checked in. No one called. And that somehow hurt more than being laughed at, because it confirmed everything she feared. She was background noise, forgettable. Even after standing under the lights and shouting her heart into the dark, she was still no one. But somewhere else in the school, someone couldn't forget her. Oh, Ji-hwan tried to act like he always did, smiling, answering teachers politely, helping set up the fundraiser booth. But something was different. He caught himself, checking the back of the classroom during homeroom, expecting to see that girl with the braid and the oversized cardigan. He didn't even know he had memorized her. But her absence felt loud, too loud. And when his friends laughed about the video, for the 5th time that week, something inside him snapped. "Dude," one of them said, scrolling on his phone, "someone made a remix of her mic moment. It's like auto-tuned, hilarious." Ji-hwan grabbed the phone and deleted the clip. "What the hell, man?" The boy protested. "Enough," Ji-hwan said quietly. "Why do you care? It's not like she's your—" "I said enough." His voice didn't rise, but the table went silent. And for the first time, Ji-hwan looked unsure, because he couldn't stop thinking about that moment, not the part where he rejected her, the part right before, when she said, "I know you don't know me, but I know you." And how no one ever had said that to him without expecting something in return. That night, he walked alone past the art room. Something caught his eye, a forgotten project board still leaning against the wall. Painted. Stars torn notebook paper. A collage of everyday objects glued in a careful swirl of color. There on the bottom right was a small ink drawing. His face. Not the usual smiling one from school posters, but tired, thoughtful, real. He picked up the board and found the signature. Tiny, barely visible, Kwon So-yeon. He carried it to the student council room and stared at it for a full hour. Why him? Why draw him? Why risk everything for someone like him? He didn't deserve that kind of honesty, and yet he missed it. Later that night, he searched for her on Instagram, nothing, art forum, deleted. He checked their class attendance list, still enrolled, still missing. The next morning, he waited by her desk, just in case. She didn't come, so he opened the bottom drawer, found nothing but dust and an old bookmark with pressed flowers. He took it, put it in his pocket, held it like an apology. That day, during his break, he walked to the library, asked the librarian if she remembered So-yeon. She did. She used to check out poetry books. Always read in the same corner. Which corner? He asked. The woman pointed, and there it was, a tiny cushion under the window, worn soft, like someone sat there every day and imagined being somewhere else. He sat down and wondered, how many times had she looked up from that seat? And looked at him? How many chances had he missed? That night, Ji-hwan opened a blank page in his notebook. For the first time in months, he didn't write a speech. He wrote a letter to someone who might never read it. Dear So-yeon, I don't know how to start, because I didn't know how to listen when it mattered. I said you misunderstood, but maybe I did. Maybe you were the only one seeing clearly. It started with the sketch, but it didn't stop there. The more Ji-hwan searched, the more he found pieces of her scattered in forgotten corners of the school. It was like she had been building a secret gallery in plain sight. And no one ever noticed. Until now. Behind the bookshelf in the library, tucked between two poetry anthologies, he found a folded piece of thick paper. It looked like it had been slipped there carefully. When he opened it, he saw his own handwriting, copied perfectly. It was from a student council flyer he had written months ago. His own words, traced in ink, surrounded by stars and little hand-drawn hearts. And underneath it, in tiny letters, words matter more when someone believes them. In the back of the old art supply closet, taped to the inside of a cabinet door, was a collage. Photos, torn notebook pages, a dried flower petal, a wrapper from the cafe's strawberry milk, and in the center, his name, written in gold marker. OJH No. One else would have known, but he did. It wasn't about obsession. It wasn't about delusion. It was about care. She had watched him from a distance, not because she idolized him, but because she noticed him. Not the image, the person, and he had thrown that away in front of everyone. By the end of the week, he couldn't sleep. He kept seeing her face in his mind, not the moment she was on stage, but the second after, when the crowd laughed and she looked down, like she had expected it all along. Like his rejection wasn't a surprise, just a confirmation of what the world had already told her. You're not enough, and somehow, that cut deeper than anything. Ji-hwan started walking home differently, took the long way, past the flower shop where he once saw her browsing quietly. He walked slower near the back gate of the school, hoping to see her shadow. Even asked the librarian, again softly, do you know if she's coming back? The answer was always the same. Silence. And yet, he kept hoping. In his room, he kept the bookmark with the pressed flowers on his desk, right next to the sketch of himself. He stared at it every night, until one day he pulled out a box from his closet, the one where he kept the things that he never showed anyone. A chipped trophy from middle school, a broken pen he used to chew when nervous, a photo of his parents from before their divorce, memories he never talked about, fears he never admitted. And suddenly, he realized something. They were the same. Him and her, different masks, same loneliness. He hid behind smiles, she hid behind silence. But they both lived in spaces where no one really saw them, and she had tried to break through. She had said it out. Loud, she had said, "I know you don't know me, but I know you." And he had crushed her for it. He couldn't take it anymore. He grabbed his jacket, ran, didn't care if it was late. He had to find her. First, he tried her classroom, empty. Then the library, lights off. Then, he remembered the art room, late at night. The door was slightly open. He peeked inside. No one. But on the table, a single notebook, old, dusty, unlabeled. He flipped it open. Inside were pages and pages of drawings, all of him. But not like posters or fan art. Each one showed a different side. Him walking alone after school. Him rubbing his eyes during a council meeting. Him sitting with his head in his hands. Not smiling, just existing. She had seen him, when no one else did, when even he couldn't see himself. He took the notebook home, read it like a story. At the end, there was one page that made him stop breathing. It showed two figures, a girl on a stage, a boy in the audience. He was turning away. She was frozen mid-sentence and written in the corner, "This is where the world ends or begins." He closed the notebook and whispered into the silence, "I'm sorry." The next day he asked the vice principal for a favor. "I want to leave something in the auditorium." "Did you lose something?" "No," Ji-hwan said. "I need to return something." The man hesitated. "That's not normally allowed, but all right, just keep the door locked after." That night, Ji-hwan stood alone under the same spotlight where she had confessed. He placed the sketchbook carefully on the edge of the stage. Beside it, a new bookmark, pressed with his flower, one he bought at her favorite shop, and a card with one line, "Maybe I was the one who misunderstood everything." He didn't know if she would come back, didn't know if she'd ever forgive him, but now he wanted to try. Not because he pitied her, but because he saw her, really saw her, and that changed everything. She didn't expect to cry when she saw the stage again, but she did. It was late, the school was quiet, the hallway lights flickered with that soft hum they always made at night when most students were gone and the world felt far away. She wasn't even sure why she had come back. Maybe she was curious. Maybe part of her wanted to hurt herself more, to stand where she was humiliated and prove she could survive it. But when she pushed open the auditorium door, there it was, the sketchbook, her sketchbook, resting gently on the stage edge, and next to it, a bookmark with real petals and a folded card. Her hands trembled as she picked it up. The handwriting was familiar. Ji-hwan's. One line. "Maybe I was the one who misunderstood everything." She didn't cry right away. She just sat there on the stage, her feet dangling, holding the card against her chest. And for the first time in days, the silence didn't feel cruel. It felt seen. The next morning, she returned to school. No announcement. No fanfare. She just walked into class quietly. Some heads turned, some whispers, but no one said anything except him. He looked up the second she walked in. Their eyes met. His breath caught, but he didn't speak. He just stared, like he was afraid to blink and lose her again. At lunch, he waited by the library. She didn't show. After school, he waited by the front gate. Nothing. That night, he sent a single message. "Can I talk to you?" She read it. Didn't reply. The next day, he found her in the stairwell behind the gym. She was sitting alone, arms around her knees. Her eyes weren't puffy anymore, just tired. He approached slowly. "Hi." She didn't answer. He sat across from her silence. Then, "I didn't come to ask you to forgive me," he said, still nothing. "I just wanted to tell you. I see you now." She looked at him finally, not with anger, with disbelief. "You think that changes anything?" He shook his head. "No, but I hope it means something." She laughed once, dry. "You feel guilty. I feel sorry." "For what?" "For everything." She stood. "You don't get to apologize and expect me to heal you. I'm not asking for that. You're only here because you saw my drawings, because you found the parts of me you ignored before." "No," he said gently. "I'm here because I missed them, and I don't want to miss you again." She stepped back, her voice sharper now. You didn't miss me. You missed being the hero. You missed having something real to hold when everything else about you feels fake. That hit him, hard, and she saw it, but she didn't stop. You want to feel good about noticing me now after all this? After the worst moment of my life? He swallowed. No, I want to feel honest. For once. She crossed her arms. So now. You're honest, great. What am I supposed to do with that? Nothing, he said quietly. You don't have to do anything. She blinked. That surprised her. He sat back down. I'm not here to fix what I broke. I just wanted to hear whatever you needed to say. He looked up at her. And if that means listening while you tell me how much you hate me, I'll stay. Silence. Then she sat again, slowly, on the opposite side of the stairwell, still far, but no longer running. For a long time, neither spoke. Then, I don't hate you, she said. His eyes softened. I hated what you said, she added. I did, too, she glanced at him. I felt like I was nothing. You were never nothing, he said. I just couldn't see past myself. She looked down. I used to imagine you saw me, in little ways. A glance, a shared silence. I built entire stories out of crumbs. I wish I had looked sooner, he whispered. I don't want to be someone's guilt project. You're not. I don't want your pity. You don't. Have it. She met his eyes, then asked, Why now? He paused, took a breath. Because when you disappeared, everything felt fake, even the things I thought I liked. She listened. I smiled, and no one asked if it was real. You did. Before. I even knew I needed it. He reached into his pocket, pulled out the pressed flower bookmark. I never looked at anyone the way you looked at me. And now, I want to try. Her lip trembled. She didn't reach for the flower. Not yet. Instead, she whispered, I was so sure you were going to laugh. I almost did, he admitted. But not because it was funny, because I panicked. She nodded slowly. I thought I ruined myself. For nothing. He leaned forward. No. You were brave. They locked eyes. A long silence, then she stood again. But this time she offered her hand. He looked up, hesitated, then took it. She helped him to his feet, and for a second, they just stood there, fingers linked, not lovers, not friends, just two people, beginning again. Later that night, she sat by her window, the sketchbook on her lap. She turned to the page she never finished, a boy walking away from a girl on a stage. She picked up her pen and drew him turning around. The school felt different now, not louder, not quieter, just clearer. People still whispered when she passed in the halls, but it didn't sting the same. They had already laughed. She had already fallen. There was nothing left to break. Only space. To rebuild. So-yeon didn't return to the spotlight. She didn't sign up for new clubs or change the way she dressed. She still walked with quiet steps, still tied her braid the same way. But now, when she looked in the mirror, she saw someone braver. Someone who had said the truth out loud, in front of everyone, and survived it. Ji-hwan didn't try to impress her. He didn't flood her phone with texts or chase her between classes. Instead, he began leaving things, tiny things, a folded note in the library where she used to sit, a flower, petal pressed between the pages of her favorite poetry book, a ribbon tied to the handle of the art room door. No words, just presence. And then one afternoon, she found it. On the rooftop, the one place that still belonged only to her. The wind tugged at her hair as she stepped forward. There, resting on the bench, was a small sketchbook. Not hers. His. She opened it slowly. The first page, her, drawn in soft pencil. No exaggerated eyes or dramatic angles. Just her, head down, cardigan wrapped tightly, fingers clutching a pen. The next page, her again, reading by the window, then painting, then crying, then standing under a spotlight, and then smiling, a quiet smile, soft and sure. It took her breath away. On the last page, there was a drawing of Ji-hwan, He stood at the edge of a stage holding a microphone, his face unsure, vulnerable. Above it, in neat handwriting, "Now I'm the one who misunderstood. You saw me before I saw myself." And just below that, "If you still have room in your story, can I walk with you from here?" So-yeon closed the book and held it to her chest. The sky above was pink and gold, the city humming far below. She didn't cry this time. She smiled, a full, real smile. Because this wasn't pity, this wasn't pressure. This was someone saying, "I choose you." Without noise, without masks. That evening, Ji-hwan sat in the courtyard alone, his hands clasped in his lap. The school lights flickered on one by one. He didn't expect anything. He had already said what mattered. Then, footsteps, soft, measured. He looked up. She stood there, sketchbook in hand, no words, just her presence, and that was enough. She sat beside him, opened the book, flipped to the page with his self-portrait, then took out her pen, drew a second figure beside him, small, slouching, holding a microphone. But this time, she was smiling too. She handed it back. "I kept drawing myself alone," she said softly. "I didn't know how to add anyone else." He looked at the page, then at her. "You just did." They didn't hug, they didn't kiss. Not yet. They just sat, shoulders touching, hearts beginning. Later, So-yeon wrote in her journal, the one no one had ever seen. She taped a copy of the sketch inside, and under it wrote, "I thought I needed to be chosen to matter, but the truth is, I mattered the moment I chose to speak." And somewhere in the quiet of the school, in a world that once ignored her, someone finally listened.